governments, and you have a lot of, these makeshift camps for refugees, we could also help build real homes for refugees too, using this earth bag technique. So it's kind of finally of figuring out like a way that I could still travel and meet other cultures, but actually like help in a very tangible way by building shelters for people. And of course, I kind of want to live in one myself. I've always loved the architecture. So one of the only counties in not only California, but in the United States that allow this type of architecture is in San Bernardino County, which is why living here now, I'm actually getting to learn how to be a local out here and see the land and prospect as to where I'm going to build my future home. And I would love to build a sustainable, eco-friendly home using that earth bag technique. So I'll be going to Cal Earth Institute soon and learning to do that. And
that
then,
so cool.
Yeah, so if I'm not traveling ghost hunting, I'm going to be traveling building homes for people who need it.
That is so awesome. That's so cool. So speaking of like, one of the things that really drew me out here to the desert was I really felt like I could feel an energy out here, or I don't know how to describe it, but there's like an energy that feels very creative and healing. And I don't know out here. Have you had any experiences like that as far as being here? Or
I think one of the most beautiful things about the desert, and I feel it on your property too, because you're like right off the edge of the BLM, and sometimes you could just go on a hike and sit on the edge of the BLM and overlook the land, and it's just so quiet. You forget what the planet sounds like. Like growing up in cities, you're always hearing traffic, you're hearing people, you're hearing sirens and helicopters and all that stuff. And just to sit out there, I like really sat out for a while, and I just felt, I think the energy spoke to me in kind of like this hum. There's like this deep resonating hum of the desert. And a lot of people come out here because of that vibration. And I mean, you live like just a mile down the road from the Integratron, and that was considered to be a vortex of perfect, like, I guess, resonance that, Van Tassel built that perfect acoustic building to connect with, people say aliens, but it could be just like extra dimensional beings, or you could time travel through sound and vibration and things like that. So that was the whole idea. It was like the Integratron is, like this, it's built on a land that has this resonance underneath it. And I do feel that resonance in it, and it takes tapping into it. It's true. When you also have this space of mind out here, that's what helps you become more creative, because it takes stepping away from the city or stepping away from your day job and having that quiet time with yourself, and then you connect with the land out here, and then that quiet time with yourself, with the resonance of this like beautiful desert, it makes this amazing like mixture for creativity, where all of a sudden you get inspired by ideas that you're like, I'm capable of doing this. I can do this. I could do this, and all of a sudden everything just opens wide for you. But I think it's being able to tap into the energy that is out here, and because on the flip side, there are some other people that live out here in the desert that are on an opposite frequency, and it leads them down a path of self-destruction and addiction. And so it's like a mixed bag. You have like tons of creatives flock here, filmmakers, musicians, spiritualists, people that, are healers even, and then you have people that hole up and like do meth all day and like pace back and forth off like, the highways and stuff. And it's weird. It's so weird because if you're not tuned into that vibration, because everything has a yin and yang, like I've seen it could pull you into a really creative space, or it could pull you into like a really dark space if you don't know how to manifest that energy.
Yeah, it is a weird dichotomy out here. It's almost
It
like even
is.
manifested physically when you see these like $1 million glass homes right next to like a lot with like a trailer and a whole bunch of like cars on blocks. You know, you can even just see it
Yeah.
physically. It's weird.
Well, that's
um,
cool because I think it keeps a person a little bit grounded because then the person that's in the trailer sees that there is an opportunity to be more than that. And then the person that's living in that like $3 million like architectural home sees where they can be and where they could go downhill. I see there's a gradient in like experience out here. And it kind of keeps you balanced. It keeps the balance, if you know how to approach that, if you know how to take that experience in.
exactly.
Yeah.
So for the little Susan, the little girl, or really anyone who's in Miami and really wants to get involved with ghost hunting or anything like that, how would you tell them to start? Or is there something? Should they get the K2 meter and just start running little investigations by themselves? Or
Well, I find that Ghost Hunters, being one of the original shows, have inspired a lot of people to do that already. So I'm seeing people on YouTube, like amateur investigators, going out there, and these tools are becoming more and more accessible. They used to be really expensive to get, and now because they become so popular, there's different versions of them, and they're sold at different price levels, and so anyone could get their hands on a K2 meter or EMF detector, or just like buy a recorder. But people could use their actual phones to record EVPs now. We have cameras in our pockets. Oh yeah. I go on tours sometimes and I'll just like turn on my phone just to get the information from the tour guys, and I'll have like EVPs happening. That's happened before, and on my own on an iPhone,
wow.
So I think people are actually getting more involved in it. So I would say to steer away from like the I don't want to talk smack on other shows, but there is poor form and investigation on television now and on YouTube. That's not very it's not a sturdy way to investigate. So I would say join your local team and learn to investigate with them. Also do your research, read up on like other investigators like Ed and Lorraine Warren, or one of you sent me this questionnaire, and you asked me about a book that I liked. And one was, House of Darkness, House of Light by Andrea Perrin, who was a survivor of what's known as the Conjuring House. And, she grew up in this home, and it's funny because the film that James Wan put out kind of makes the story more of a horror story. But if you read her book, which the movie The Conjuring is based off of, you see her spiritually growing with the phenomena and having a love for it. I think it's really important to read up on cases and read up on investigators like Ed and Lorraine Warren or Edgar Casey. Read up on like other esoteric subjects, learn about religion. I think it's important to do all that book work before actually going out into the fields. Because a lot of the time people are misinterpreting phenomena, and I find that to be really the saddest thing. Like everything I've experienced has been so vast, and I've never experienced something that was demonic. I've experienced I experienced a lot of heavy activity, but people tag it with this name, and it's just kind of, there are negative and positive haunts, that's for sure, and a negative haunt will get to you psychologically and make your body feel sick, and you'll feel like you're being watched, and you feel like you feel like a rat in a cage in these really like negative haunt locations. But there are energies. All negative energies can be transformed into positive. Like energy is fluid, and it depends on the individual, on the investigation too, like their headspace, as to what type of phenomena you're going to get. Because I believe that human beings are the batteries in locations, and if you're a negative battery, you're going to charge it in a negative way. and the same thing, if you're a positive battery, you're going to get like a nice positive interaction. So I find that a lot of people that are going in on investigations, you have to learn to like leave your baggage at the door, marital problems at the door, work problems at the door. Like you don't bring that baggage in on investigations, because that could psychologically trigger a negative aspect haunt. And then if you're going into locations that like already have negative histories and negative occurrences like murders and suicides happening, you're going to stimulate that memory within the environment. And then you get those negative aspect haunts. And that, just like you could charge that environment with your energy, that energy can also stick onto you as a person.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah. So people could go back home having these awful, like investigative hangovers, and then they go into, they nosedive into depressions and things like that if they don't check their energy before they go into a location. So, wow. and you ask like seasoned investigators, they'll tell you that paranormal hangover is real. It feels like you went out on a bender the night before, like doing blow and drinking alcohol, rolling balls, and you wake up the next day like, that's how you feel after certain investigations. You feel like you partied the hardest you ever had the night before, when all you were doing was sitting in the dark for 5 hours doing, like no real physical activity, it's nuts how that it could be really, it could really affect the human mind and body, these locations. It's all about energy transference, so you have to be careful.
So then if you bring something home with you, or bring that negative energy home with you, then how do you get rid of it? You just have to do a lot of
transform work? It. Yeah, it's exactly personal work. It's the energy comes home with you because it's feeding off of you. If you're having a negative attachment, it's so funny because a negative attachment, then you come home and you're seeing like strange shadow figures, or you're feeling like you're being watched, and your family starts treating you differently. You start getting into a depression, or you get agitated. You start treating your family different. You start becoming mean or sad. And then you start having these strange phenomena happening in your house. You got to check in order to get rid of that energy. It's not about bringing in a priest with holy water, or like a shaman with sage or anything like that. It's about, checking your energy. Like if you want to get rid of that negative aspect haunt that you brought home with you, you got to change the energy within yourself, so that way you're not feeding that energy anymore with what it wants. And in that way, you can, change that energy into a positive one. So when on the flip side, you bring, people like have positive attachments, and they start seeing positive things happen in their life, and you call that spirit guides or angels and things like that. And you're like, something's protecting me, something's watching over me. And those are
fire outside my window.
Right. And then and then you start having positive things happen in your life. You get that new job. All of a sudden, like the roads open up for you, and I've gone into locations with a positive mindset and brought back positive energies with me that I felt had transformed my reality into something new. And a good example of that was like I went hiking on the Monk's Trail in Thailand, and it was in Chiang Mai. And this wasn't an investigative thing that I was doing, but all of a sudden I started feeling this energy near like the rivers, because you kind of like hike through in and out the river. And I was like, you know what? This river is calling me. And I sat in that river, and then I played in that river, and then I meditated on that river. And then all of a sudden, I felt like the whole hike was speaking towards me. The forest speaking to me. Like I felt like trees were reaching out to me. Butterflies the size of my face were landing on me. I felt like freaking Snow White. You know what I mean? And I was just like, the whole energy had shifted. I was like, wow, like everything in this jungle right now is part of me. And then I finally ended up at this monastery at the top of the hike, and it was beautiful. I had like the most warm hug. I felt like I was having a warm hug inside. I brought that with me back to the United States, and I discovered new abilities all of a sudden from that hike, that I started getting like a new ability of like clairvoyance. And I started seeing an energy that was kind of like, I know it sounds scary and I know it sounds crazy, but it was like a feminine serpentine energy. And you know me, I love snakes. I love like reptiles and things like that. And I discovered this goddess apparently, and you could call it an angel or whatever, but she goes by the name of Naga Kanya. And she's kind of like